Hello, and welcome to the Top Voice podcast. It is February 24th, and I'm excited to have on today Rakshit Kharbanda, who's going to give us a behind the scenes look at a nonlinear life about blazing your own trail. And when we met several months ago now, at this point, we got to know each other, and you told me your journey. You're a couple, I think, decades behind me in life, but I think a couple decades ahead of me in experience, just because you've blazed your own trail, and we're excited to hear about all the lessons and insights that you have to share today. Before we do that, for those of you that are tuning in live, please do let us know where you're tuning in from. We love to take questions and comments. Rakshit is calling in from Munich today. I'm in Sacramento, so we are truly covering the globe and would love to get comments and questions from that expanse as well. For those of you that are listening on your favorite podcast, please do remember to subscribe. It's the best way to support the show. Rakshit, it's wonderful to have you here. Let's just jump in. I think we need to know a little bit more about you and about this journey that is so unique. Why don't you take us back to the beginning?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Michael. First of all, thank you for having me here today. As someone who used to run his own podcast, I've got to be a host on a couple of those, but it's my first time that I'm here as a guest speaker. So thank you so much for that. To share a bit about my background, I originally come from New Delhi, India, where I did my bachelor's in technology up until 2022, and then moved to Paris for my master's in management. I was at ESSEC Business School for about 3 years, but between that, I was actually moving across countries. Uh, I have in the past 3.5 years experience living in 4 different countries, which are like France, Germany, now India, and also Canada. And I was moving these countries basically for an internship, exchange, apprenticeship, and so on. And now that I finished my education in France, I actually moved here about 6, 7 months ago to Munich and joined this wonderful company known as Throne as a risk and analytics manager.
It's quite the journey. I want to talk about maybe the younger you. Who did you always have this desire to travel, to move, to transition, or was this something that came more as a serendipitous moment where you just decided to do something different?
Yeah, I think it came more as a serendipitous moment instead of something that I always thought of. In the back of my mind, I did feel that, hey, I wanted to go outside India and experience cultures, food. I love to cook and basically get to know the perspectives by being at different places. And when I got this opportunity, I decided to move here for my master's. Honestly, coming from like a traditional Indian family, I in India, it's very common to move back with your parents when they are old and you have to take care of them. That coupled with the fact that I always wanted to build a company of myself back in India one day, I thought, hey, I'm here in France. I have about 6 or 7 years before I move back. What else can I do that would make this experience my absolute best?
Mm.
So that was the idea. Sorry, that didn't keep me fixed or stay in one country. And I was like, it would be absolute amazing experience if I get to move to different countries and experience them as well.
When I was younger, I moved from California to Washington D.C. for my one of my first internships, and I distinctly remember the anxiety, the fear, the excitement, all of that wrapped together into this journey. Take us through the first moment where you decided to move and go. Was that difficult for you? Was it exciting? Was it scary? Is it still scary? You've moved quite a bit, and so at every transition, what is that emotional experience like? Let's just maybe not talk about the professional one, although
Hmm.
I want to get to that.
Yeah, so for me, I was pretty excited. I think like I back in India for like first 22 years, I never actually traveled alone outside of my own city. And coming to a country with like three suitcases on a one-way ticket, uh, it was Paris, so it sounded actually amazing at the beginning. But it's like once you get there, 5 or 6 months living there, it suddenly hits you that you came here on a one-way ticket and you don't have an option to go back
Mm,
anytime soon. And that's when the excitement starts to fade a bit away because you realize that you also have responsibilities, and the initial excitement tones down, and then you have to basically build your own career ahead, which is why it hits you, which is when it hits you, and then you have to decide what to do forward because you came here. If like for me, I came here, that was a privilege for me, and I didn't wanted to waste that. So I was kind of trying to figure out where I wanted to be.
yeah. Yeah. I want to talk about each of those things in more depth, but maybe people may be asking, okay, a lot of people go travel the world and do different things. Why you? And the reason is you share a lot about your journey on social media, places like LinkedIn, and you talk about these transitions. And I think for most people who see the glory sides of jobs or big promotions, you've been sharing more of the real journey, like you just did there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is like whatever platform we are on, either we are on LinkedIn, Instagram, we always get to see the great side of things. Like you said, the promotions, if you're on Instagram, someone traveling, but very few people talk about like their failures or setbacks openly on social media. And the idea is if, let's say, you have 100 people connected to you over any of the platforms, and every day when you open that platform, you're seeing the best of the people out there. And it makes you feel that, hey, probably like everyone else has seemed to be doing great in life, but everyone might be just posting once a year. And suddenly it feels like everyone's doing great. Like, what's happening with me? And then when you talk to people, you realize that hey, it's not true. Like it's the same way. Everyone feels the same way. People are just not talking about it very openly. And I had these like one or two incidents where I wrote about on LinkedIn, and people reached out to me and they were like, hey, thank you so much for writing about this. I've been feeling kind of out of place for a long time. It actually inspires me a lot. And those are the kinds of conversation that push me to write even more out on those platforms.
Yeah. And as you're doing that, what are you learning about yourself in those? It's a bit of a open diary to the world where people get to see and experience your story as you transition from place to place. First of all, are you sharing everything, or is there stuff that you hold back, and or is it your therapy to write down and have these conversations kind of out loud with the world?
Yeah, to be honest, it started more as a diary for myself than as a diary for others because I always wanted to like document my experiences and uh, go back in past if someday I'm feeling out of place and look at what I wrote. So it's not just like advice for someone who's early in their career or on the similar path as me, but also like an advice for myself.
And what have you learned in that? Maybe I'd love to hear one or two aha moments that you've had by using this platform, having this conversation, writing down in this journal or this diary. What are some of those big insights or aha moments you've had along the way?
Yeah, I think like uh, for me, the one of the learnings have been that putting out yourself on a platform, it actually creates very engaging conversations that you might not otherwise else do. There was this one experience where there was like a colleague of mine connected with me on LinkedIn. And even though we hadn't spoken to each of us for a long time, he would occasionally see my content popping up. And when I had to like speak to him about like an internship opportunity, it suddenly created this connection. even though like we haven't been speaking to each other, that otherwise wouldn't have, like if I would have just reached out to him. So I love the way that these platforms actually connect you with people without even having to talk to them directly. And what I also love about like LinkedIn is that, or any other platform, it's that you don't ever know who's the person on the other side reading your post, your seeing your video or read. So this thing has sort of like exponential returns for you if it works out, because people have that relatability with you before you even enter the room, just because of putting yourself out there. So I think that has worked wonders for me and has been one of my biggest lessons.
Yeah. Somebody, we had Melissa Cohen on, I believe it was her that said that last year on one of our shows. And she said something that's really, I thought was really, really great, which is somebody's always watching. And you may not know who that is. Maybe it was Portia. I think it was Portia Parker Griffin actually had said that. They were both great. But she said somebody's always watching. And so by putting yourself into the world, you don't necessarily get an immediate return on some kind of an engagement, but someone somewhere is following this. And so you've created a pretty good followership in terms of people. What have you learned about the type of people that do follow you, and maybe the types of people that do engage with you? What's your audience like as you've had this journey? What are they starting to shape up as?
I think my audience is like primarily friends, colleagues back from India, in France, and now also Germany, since I have lived here and met people here. But one of the things that I have like learned about my audience in general is that I can kind of classify it between two kinds of people. So there are people that happen to life, and there are people to whom life happens. What I mean by that is, it's like there's a lot of people out there who feel like, hey, this is not in my control. I can't do anything about it. And you're just going with the way life is. You are not trying to, I won't say control it, because not everything is under your control, but at least trying to make sure that you can do something about it. But then there are people who uh, try to do something, take action, make a change. And I think the type of people that have been engaging with my have been actually the second type of people who are doing something, who are wanting to do something. And it's platform like these that have connected me with them. And to some of them, I'm happy to like be friends with, get inspired from, get advice from on a week to week basis. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm smiling because we just had another guest talk about this the other day. I'll share a little story. Years ago, I had a doctor that just my general practitioner. I was in for something, I can't remember what it was, and I was getting ready to move from Washington D.C. back to California, and he said something that I appreciated at the time, but maybe I appreciate more now, which is he said there are two types of people in life. There are people that life happens to them, and then there are people who make life happen. And he said you're in the second group, and I was really touched by that. And you are clearly in that group. So let's talk about that piece of it. Is this something you've always are you have you always been that person when you first started this multi-city, multi-country journey? Did you have that fire or passion, or was it an incremental kind of journey? Like what did you really know about yourself in this desire to kind of have a non-linear life and career?
Yeah. So I think my view always in life has been that uh, one, if you do what everyone else is doing, you basically get what everyone else gets. Back even during my masters at ESSEC, there were a lot of people, like most of my seniors were working across companies in France or doing internships in France. And because of like the couple of factors that I shared about being back in India and building from India, I had this view that, okay, I have 7, 8 years. What can I make the most out of it? And then I realized that there were not many people actually applying for internships outside France. I spoke to a couple of them, and they were like, no one's going to hire you for like 3 or 6 months. Because if you look at companies, they want to hire from good universities in their own country. Like they have a ton of them. For example, Germany has a ton of good universities. Why would they want to hire you? But I still took that chance and I was like, okay, let me apply. The worst case is that someone would say no to me, which isn't that bad. So I shot a message to one of the founders of the company and I applied to on LinkedIn. And then he instantly put me in touch with one of the business developers on the team, whom then I interviewed with, did this internship with, and it was the same company that now I work at. So it's the same company I interned at about 2 years ago. That kind of worked well for me, and I was able to join full time after my master's, which I'm always grateful for. But the viewpoint was always that you have to like learn to take risks at certain point in time because uh, there's like this mindset of what if I'm in my late 80s or 90s, if I probably miss out on something, if I fail, that would always be like one failure. Probably had a couple that I still don't remember, but if I don't do it, then there would be this feeling of what if I could have done this when I was younger, when I had like no family, nothing to worry about, no baggage, and I could just move around the world. So I took that chance. And I honestly I didn't know everything. I would be lying to myself if I said I knew how everything's gonna work out. I just took one step and had that mentality of how we can make this work. So for me, it's always about like don't ask me if this can be done. It's more about how much time do I have, because I think it takes is you to figure that out, which takes time. But if you have that mentality where you accept that, hey, I'm gonna get there, you're gonna get there. Probably if not today, tomorrow, but eventually that would happen.
Yeah, you're really an inspiring guy, and I really mean that. And you've said a couple things in there that I think are, if you know, folks that are listening, you really should take to heart. The first one is what you said at the beginning. If you're going to do what everyone else does, you're going to get what everyone else gets, and that is a really insightful comment. I think for someone on the relatively young scale, most people don't learn that until it's kind of too late.
Mhm.
And so, one of my favorite quotes, I've heard this in many places, but if you want something you've never had, you're going to have to do something you've never done. And that is very much the same way. I mean, I got to be 50 before I started my own company and doing things like this. And I as much as I was trying as maybe a little bit of a troublemaker growing up, I don't know that I was ever as adventurous or willing to tolerate risk in the way that you were. I am now, but back at my younger self. The second thing you said there that I think is really important, and the research actually proves this, and people that they've talked to at the end of their life, which is most people regret the things they didn't do, not the things they did. And that what if question, it's a tough one because you only sometimes realize it when the moment's gone. And I think you've done a great job at being an example for how to take advantage as it's happening. And then the third thing you said, which is you didn't know how it was all going to work out. And so many of us talk ourselves out of those hard moments. So let's talk about the hard moments because you could have, I'm sure you had some, and I'm sure that those hard moments made you want to go back, give up, not take advantage of this window. How did you deal with those moments of maybe loneliness or frustration, rebuilding your life again? How do you deal with that?
Uh, I actually have like a couple of friends back from my school, and we do this funny thing is like once in a week we get on a conversation and we try to talk, I would say like about nothing about like politics, etc., etc. We would just try to talk honestly nonsense and just try to bully like one of the friends in the group. And that actually has kept me a lot sane. Like I said, there have been moments where I'm very uncertain if it's going to work out or not. I'm just trying to uh, honestly like deal with that problem at that point in time and move on to the other one. Like when I was moving from France to Germany for my internship, I didn't know anything about how housing works in Germany, what's the visa process, how I'm going to get there. So there were a couple of things now that I look back onto it. But that point in time, I was just dealing with one problem at a time. Like first was, hey, how do we get a visa? I was just using ChatGPT to see how do I get a visa, like what embassy to go at, where to once you get your visa, what's the next step? So I think like in the grand scheme of things, you shouldn't be thinking so much at that point in time and take it as a one step at a time thing. Because if you ask me, hey, I just joined my university and I want to get where you are today. In 3.5 years, there might be 1,000 things that I've done. But if I tell you those 1,000 things, you're gonna just quit and be like, "Hey, I'm not doing this. Like, there's no way this
Yeah.
is gonna happen." So it's kind of stems from the fact that I actually love this quote from Steve Jobs a lot, where he talks about uh, can't connect the thing, but you can always connect them looking backward.
Hmm.
Everything that stems down from like finding an internship to moving here for a job. Even during my bachelor's, I volunteered for one of the sessions with like a former with an alumni at my university, and they ended up being my mentor while I was doing my applications. So when you are in that phase, uh, you kind of have to move without actually worrying about it. I mean, it's easier said than done
Yeah.
because I always get scared and nervous. Like I was nervous before this podcast, what I would be talking about, what my thought process would be, which is natural to do so. But keeping that mentality of just looking at what's the next step and taking that has helped me a lot. And it's not just like I think career, but also like in life. True story, like last week, I was actually at a trip in Italy, and there was this village across the coast that I was supposed to go from like one village to the other. There were two options. Either I could have taken a train, which was like 4 minutes, or the other option was to hike 1 hour 15 minutes. I
Hmm.
was like, yeah, I can get there in 4 minutes, but it wouldn't be that fun if I could hike and get there. And during that hike, I think I gave up like twice. I was like, uh, there's like 100 steps in front of me, and I didn't prepare for the hike. I was on the hike and I saw a couple of people with their hiking gear. I was in my boots and coat, just trying to go around and see the views. And there was like 150 steps, and I was like, if I can turn back now, I've been 20 minutes into this hike, or there's like another 1 hour, 10 minutes, or 5 minutes of hike left. So I was like, what if I just climb this 50 steps, take a minute break, and then climb the next 50? I climbed the first 50 and looked back, and I was like, I don't want to get down the 50 steps again. So I would climb the next 50. Once I got back, like got to the 100th step, I was like, yeah, the path forward looks kind of straight. So I just went straight. There was another 10 steps. I was like, okay, let's take those 10 steps first. And then there was a point where I think I had done like 80% of the hike by myself. And then I was like, hey, just 20% left. And that kind of started pushing me to go further and further. And I was able to make that hike. I think that very much mindset also applies to life in general. Just think about the next step. And I think things would take care of themselves.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you've read my book, but you just described three of the chapters around what we know about the science of motivation and focus. And, it's really great because for folks that are listening, I think it's important. Number one, I tell people this all the time. You can't do everything, but you can do the next thing. And the next thing doesn't even need to be the best thing. It just needs to be the next thing. One of the things you hear about from the Navy SEALs a lot, which is, obviously they're the elite of everything. When they're lost or when the mission goes sideways, the first thing they say is, "Don't stand still." because standing still gives you no new information about where you could go next. And so it turns out that there's real science behind what you just described. Number one is we like goals that are closer to us in time than goals that are far away. And so the hour and 20-minute hike seems like a lot, but the next 50 steps is a lot closer. Number one. Number two, we like goals that we're approaching. The closer we get to a finish line, the more motivated we get. And so what you did was you created multiple finish lines across this journey to break it up into pieces so that I didn't need to do everything. I need to just do the next thing. You see marathon runners do this a lot. 26 miles is a long way to go. But if I'm only running to the next tree or the next half mile or the next corner, then it's just a series of successes that I stack along the way. So I don't know if you knew you were doing that, but that's what you're doing. And that's really how that works.
No, I had honestly no idea, but I'm happy that what you just said sums it up perfectly.
Yeah, and this has been your journey over the last several years in terms of both now life and career. Now we're getting in time. I could talk about this all day. So this has been really, really just fantastic. I hope people listen to this because you're giving us so much insight about the journey of life. Your career has been a mix of what I'd call traditional employment, but you've done some of your own independent entrepreneurial work as well, right? So along this journey, you've balanced, you had a podcast, you've been an intern, you've had regular jobs. How have you navigated I'd say the professional side of this different look at how you build a career?
Yeah, I think like there's a there's a couple of ways to like think about it. One thing that have has worked like well for me, either in career or its life, it's like always keep that feeling, that childlike feeling of being curious. I think like since we are young, uh, we always tell kids like, hey, don't touch that. Hey, don't do that. Hey, don't go near the stairs. Hey, don't go near the electrical outlets. And I think as we grow up, we kind of lose that curiosity because we have been in the system and expected to fit in so well that we not always question uh, what's what's uh, what's you don't accept. Uh, to give you an example, when I was actually back in bachelor's, we were just doing this mathematical sum on the board, and my professor was like, "Hey, it has to be." We were just doing like some equations, and there was like an addition sign on the screen, and I was like, "Hey, I think it should be minus." Like my probably one or two people might have felt that way in the class, but nobody took the effort to actually correct the professor, which would be bad. But I was like, you can always be respectful and be like, hey, professor, I think it should be negative instead of positive. And then he was like, okay, let's sit at the end of the class and try to figure that out together. And then at the end of the class, I went back. I tried to speak my mind out that, hey, I think this is how it's done. And I was actually correct. And then the next day, he agreed that, okay, I did this equation wrong. Could you please change it that way? So at this point, I was totally curious about why something was happening, and I was open to question it because it doesn't make sense if you feel something about it and you don't open up about it.
Mm.
Uh, so you always have to be like have this childlike feeling of being curious going on and be open to learning no matter what stage in life you are, no matter what position you are, if you're a manager, if you're a CEO, uh, even if you are like an employee, it doesn't matter at all. I would say second has been that you actually need to act with a lot of high agency, which is like I share the concept of like two kinds of people, one to whom life happen and one who happen to life or make life happen for them. And I think it's much more relevant in the current scenario where we are with AI because now you don't always need to run to people to get something done. You might be able to figure out yourself. So that's really important. And I think the third would be that, like I said, since growing up, we are trying to fit that in that mold. So we shouldn't try to do that. And like everyone's journey is unique in that sense, and we shouldn't fit ourselves to someone's idea of what success looks like.
It's just there's a lifetime worth of wisdom wrapped up in a 30-minute conversation. We talked about this. I usually ask people to kind of do a little summary, and I think you just did it perfectly in that last statement. I think for people listening, it's important to know that wisdom comes from experience. We can give our children, we can give each other knowledge, but wisdom comes through the act of doing and learning along the way. And I think you've got just such a great head start in life. Your future children and family are going to be really benefiting from the journeys that you've been on. So thank you for sharing it. Thank you for inspiring people. And again, I think I'm a lot older than you, but I'm like, man, I what should I be doing differently now that I've got this little dose of motivation? So it's great. It's great. And I think I'm a pretty progressive, motivated, person who likes to do new things. After all, I did write a book about change, so I guess it is part of my own DNA. Um, Rakshit, before we ask people where they can follow you or share that, we have a closing tradition on this podcast, which is to leave a guest for the next guest and not knowing who they're leaving it for or what the question is. And I think it's so great because these questions always work out. It's kind of bizarre, actually. It's a little creepy, but if you lost everything today, this is a perfect question. If you lost everything today, what would you rebuild first and why?
Okay, I mean that's a great question. It would take some thinking. Hmm. Hmm. I think if I lost everything that I have today, uh, one thing that I would build again, it's still, I would say, like my relationship with people, because throughout my career that I've realized that people do care about like the work you do, but even more so how you make them feel when they are around you, and that's something that people always remember. Uh, so I think I would say relationships, and that relationships isn't just like familial or with friends, but also that relationships in life, because that's what keeps me going at the end of the day.
Love it. People don't remember what you do; they remember how they feel and how you make them feel. And again, another dose of wisdom that you've given us today. Rakshit, where can we follow you, find you, read your diary, learn more about you, so that everyone listening to this can stay connected to your journey?
Yeah, so you can stay connected with me on through my LinkedIn. It's linkedin.com/Rakshit Kharbanda. I also have a podcast known as Maven Talks. It's I haven't done it for about a year, but there's like 25 good episodes that I put a lot of heart and soul into. So feel free to watch that, and I'm pretty reachable, I would say, as a person, like over LinkedIn, over email. It's just my first name, last name, which is like Rakshit Kharbanda @gmail.com. If you want to shoot an email, whether on LinkedIn, I'm pretty approachable by that sense.
I love it. And you have a website as well, don't you? Don't you have your own
Yeah,
website?
I have a website which it's again like rakshitkharbanda.com. I was kind of lucky to get the same domains everywhere. It's not updated, I think, as of like last 6 months, but yeah, feel free to reach out on that. It has all the links or ways you might need to get to me. So yeah, that sounds great.
We will share all of that in the show note captions as well and put it on YouTube and LinkedIn, all the places that we're streaming right now. Rakshit, thank you again for sharing your journey. And I think thank you more than anything for being such an example to other people. The time is now. I say to people all the time, there's this phrase, there's no time like the present. And I change that. And what I say to people is the only time is the present. We don't know what's happening tomorrow. It's not guaranteed. If you have that itch or urge to explore, travel, do something different, restart, rebuild, do it. And I think you're a great example that with the right mindset, with the right endurance and perseverance, all of those things are possible. And so I think you've just really given us a great dose of inspiration today that I want to say thank you for.
Thank you so much, Michael. It's been an inspiration speaking with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in live. And again, if you're listening on the podcast later, please do subscribe. It's the best way to support the show. Thank you again, Rakshit, and we'll see everyone next week.
Thank you.